What's going on, boys? Today we're talking about if I was to wake up the very next day and I was 500 pounds, this is what my game plan would be. So, the first thing is I would do any sort of movement that I can possibly do. I'm going to put a video on screen of me doing a movement that I think would be viable for somebody extremely overweight. You lay on your back and you basically do a snow angel, a snow angel without snow. The very next thing that I would do is I would take everything inside my fridge and every single item inside of my cupboard that has sugar in it, and I would remove it from my house. I would literally throw it in the garbage. And a lot of people would say, no. I would literally take every single item that has more than 5 grams of sugar, 10 grams of sugar, and it would be going into the trash. If, Oreos, cupcakes, ice cream, whatever it is, anything that's loaded with sugar, anything that's insulin and ghrelin spiking would instantly be removed from my house. I would throw it in the garbage. All of my soda would be switched to zero sugar soda, and I would immediately find a diet that I can do a caloric deficit. I would go onto a calorie calculator. I would calculate my BMR. I would figure out exactly how many calories I need to consume to be in 1,000 calorie deficit, and I would run it. I would try to get 2 to 5K steps a day, and then I would slowly vector up as the weight comes off. You do not want to go 0 to 100. It is actually dangerous and it's counterproductive, because if you burn too many calories, you go over that 1,000 calorie deficit, your hunger signaling is going to be through the roof, and the chances of falling off the wagon are going to be much greater. So the snow angels is where I would start. Like just the laying on your back and doing any movement, just flailing the arms, flailing the legs. It doesn't have to be precise, just any sort of movement. I would create a ridiculous amount of sweat. Another thing you can do is you can take a jump rope and stand still and just kind of chop it and swing it. Like you're kind of chopping wood with the jump rope. So once you create that deficit and you start to shred pounds, say you're 500 pounds and you take 50 off, now we can really start talking about walking. And then you get down to 400, and now we're talking about maybe 5 to 8K steps. And then now you're down to like 300, 270, and now we're talking about 10K steps. And then 240, 200, now we're starting to talk about jogging. We're starting to talk about running. The next thing I would do is I would eat 33 grams of fat. This is the diet model. 33 grams of fat if you're a man, 43 if you're a woman, and no more. And then as I start to peel down, I can lower those grams of fat and try to hit 20% of my caloric intake, 20% to 15%. And I know a lot of people say, oh, it's too low, bro. Don't listen to them, because my hormones are just fine. I've ate 21 grams of fat, and it's not like you're going to be doing it forever, right? So like your hormones aren't going to crash. You're not going to grow tits and a pussy just from eating 21 grams of fat for 8 weeks. You're going to be fine. So lower your grams of fat, say 200 grams of protein, 150 grams of protein, and then lock in your fat just like you did your protein. And then now you can choose your carbs and figure out where your energy is going to come from. Rice cakes, potatoes, sweet potatoes, brown rice, white rice, beans, Ezekiel bread, wherever you fancy, really. The world is your playground there. And so once you're down to like 200 pounds, if you're down to 200 pounds from 500 pounds, you have done it. All you have to do is just push a little bit further. And all you have to do to look great in this process is lift weights 3 times a week, and then vector up your steps. And your steps are force production. It is force production that we're aiming at, not number of steps. Let me show you what I'm talking about real quick. Exhibit A, okay? Force production is what we're after. We're after force production, not just step count. So not this. Okay, so not that, okay? We're gonna produce some force when we step. We're not just gonna step. 10,000 of that is bullshit. It doesn't really burn anything. You're not doing anything. This is what you need 10,000 of, 2,000, 5,000, then eventually 10,000, then 15,000, then 20,000, 30,000. This is what you need. Okay, so in that's gonna produce heat. So with that's going to produce heat, and that is force production. Force production produces heat, which produces sweat. This is how you know that you're in zone 2. Your heart rate is elevated, you're burning calories. What is a calorie? What is a kilocalorie? It is the amount of energy that is required to change the temperature of water by 1 degree. So it is literally heat. It is literally force production and heat production. This is why you sweat, to cool your body down from the heat produced, the energy expended. So that is why you have to produce force. Sorry, my nose itches. I just got done running, and then I took a really hot bath, and I put Vaseline on. I think it's like my skin's kind of dry, and I don't know. Sorry, I keep touching my nose. And then his cat hair is fucking. Anyways, sorry about that. It's force produced. That is the absolute key. So just remember that when you're going from 500 pounds, it's not just, lightly, just flail violently. Even if you're sitting in a chair, just do this. Just flail your arms, take a jump rope and swing it. Do some snow angels if you can do that. And then you're going to be able to burn enough fat to where you get weight off enough to be able to walk. Once you're able to, this is like Dr. Now principles, right? He takes people who are 500-600 pounds, the people who actually want it really bad enough, they go from 600 pounds to 500 pounds, from 500 pounds to 400 pounds, from 400 pounds to 300 pounds, from 300 pounds to 200 pounds, from 200 pounds to running, to actually be able to be in shape. So that is the key in order to do that. It is force production. Now, you don't want to just Ozempic lose weight, starve yourself. You want to have this nice balance in between. It's this Goldilocks zone between a caloric deficit and energy expended. That is the green zone. If you expend too much energy, you're going to be hungry as fuck, and your caloric deficit is going to be eaten up because you're going to eat a lot because you've expended too much energy. Izzy, dude, come on, bro. I'm trying to explain shit with my hands. And then if you have too much of a deficit, then your hunger signaling is going to be through the roof, and you're actually going to take away muscle, and it's going to make your physique look Ozempic-like, and you're going to look sickly. And instead of people congratulating you, they're going to be like, "Oh, dude, you're like you look like you're dying," and you don't want that. So the lifting weights 3 times a week, and again, you don't just start out lifting 3 times a week, balls to the wall, 10 sets. No, you do like 2 to 3 work sets. Do a warm-up set, 2 to 3 work sets. That's 18 reps. If you're doing 6 reps, 36. If you're doing 12 reps, between 6 and 12 reps, that's where you want your sets to be. And so it's just enough to hold on to some muscle while you lose weight. Again, the goal when you're 500 pounds is not to build muscle. You've already probably got a lot of muscle underneath the layers of fat. You just want to hold on to the muscle. This is why setting your protein and your fat is absolutely mandatory during a fat loss phase. So this is exactly what I would do if I woke up tomorrow and I was 500 pounds. And I'm trying to think, sorry, it's really late. I worked 9 hours. I just got done running for an hour, and I had an arm day earlier today. So I'm trying to think if there's anything that I'm missing. The diet, remove all sugar, lock into protein, lock into fat, do any sort of movement I can until I'm able to do the movements that I do now, and then let's see, did I miss anything? Oh, I guess like if you're prescribed, because let's face it, if you're like 500 to 600 pounds, if you need a GLP, then there's no shame up in your game. 600 pounds, you're literally ball shaped. You are the actual person that these drugs were made for. So I guess that, as much, my channel is like anti-peptide, anti-steroid, but I will say this. If I woke up 600 pounds tomorrow, I would leverage every single thing that I possibly can in order to get down to where I just at least didn't need it anymore. Once I hit 300 pounds, I think I would hop off the peptides and just learn to control myself, because you don't want to be on this shit forever, right? I would do it without it, or I would try to do it without it. But I was gonna say, if you do, or if you are prescribed to it and whatnot, and you are on it, don't feel no shame. Just the thing is, you're gonna have to learn how to eat a clean, healthy diet without these things, because you're eventually gonna want to come off, right? You don't want to be drug dependent forever. And so, yeah, I guess that's really it. And I hope I taught you something. I hope you learned something. And until next time, boys, peace.